I had an interesting session with a patient. I wanted to share it with you because it may apply to somebody out there who is really depressed. Okay, so here's basically the setup. The guy had chronic pain for a really long time. He had serious headaches that were related to cervical problems, and finally, I mean, they thought it was migraines first. They didn't know it was related to the neck. So he had months and months and months of chronic pain and suffering. And then they figured it out, and he had the neck surgery. And I hadn't heard from him in 6 weeks. And then I get a call that he's really depressed. He's like super depressed. He doesn't want to get out of the bed. Doesn't want to get out of the house. And he's unbelievably depressed. So I set up an appointment, and I'm thinking, okay, the neck surgery must have been a failure, and now the guy's really demoralized, really feeling helpless and hopeless and depressed, et cetera, right? So turns out it was a success. The pain is gone. He's weaning off of the pain meds, and he can now like go forward in his life and get back into school and get back into his part-time work and get back into everything that he loves to do. Yeah, so you'd think he'd be like incredibly happy and he wouldn't be depressed. So that's why they come to me, and the premise is, well, he has a major depressive disorder. This is a chemical imbalance, and this is beyond his control, and he's just depressed because it's not related to the situations in his life. It's just related to the fact that he's got a chemical imbalance, and so you got to adjust the meds, give him more meds, more meds. Yeah, well, that's not how I operate. Yes, if I have to use medications, I will, and I will use the least amounts that are the least toxic and the most effective. And I know how to do all of that. But if we can avoid medications, I try to. And if we can look at the contents of your mind and see how you may be creating the problem, then the solution is you and not the meds, right? So in this case, I started asking him some questions, explore a little bit about what's going on. And it turns out, right, so yeah, it turned out he's afraid. He's afraid to go forward in his life. He's afraid to get back into school. He's afraid to get back to work. He's afraid he will fail. He's afraid he will be rejected, okay? He's afraid. And so his fear is immobilizing him. But he didn't realize this, but most people don't like to say that they're afraid because that implies weakness, right? But if you say you're depressed, I can't help it, I'm depressed, then no one's going to blame you, right? No one's going to blame you. So, yeah, so that's what he was doing. Yeah, I can't help it. I'm depressed. I don't know why I can't get out of the house. And I said to him, look, here's the real problem. The real problem is you're afraid. You're afraid to go forward. And so your mind, your subconscious mind, has invented an excuse that gives you permission to hide in your room. It's not my fault. I don't have to do anything. But the problem is your fear. If you address the fear of going forward and you remind yourself that you're okay, you're quite competent and capable, and that all your fears are irrational and unrealistic based upon the evidence and data of your life, these things are doable. You can go forward. You can succeed. If you remind yourself of that and release your fear and decide you're not going to be paralyzed by your fear, the depression will go away, because the depression is only serving a purpose of kind of buffering you. It's a defense mechanism to tamp down the fear, to avoid going out into the world where you fear that you will get hurt. So the depression says, don't worry, play it safe. You can't. You got no energy. You're so depressed. You can't do anything. You're hopeless. So so you'll stay in your room and you'll be safe. You'll never go out there into the world and get rejected. Yeah, but no. So the guy got it. The point is, he got it. He recognized that the problem was not his depression, that the depression was just another symptom of his fear, and that when he addresses the fear and deals with accepting the future with its uncertainties, that the depression will go away. So the lesson for you guys out there is, the mind is a powerful playground, and it will do all sorts of things on a subconscious level, and it can fool you and seduce you into thinking things that aren't true, and make you think that this is the problem over here when really the problem's over there. So really, that's another thing. When the guy first came in and he says, I'm depressed, and I said, well, why? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, you do know. And that began the conversation. Because oftentimes people say, I don't know, and it's like a reflex. It's like their default response. And maybe they don't know. They can't conceptualize it at that moment. But deep down, They do know, because guess what? They're the prime mover of their lives. They're the prime mover of their emotions and their behaviors. They are the prime mover of their choices. And it all starts with thoughts. And the more you explore your thoughts and your fears, your biases, the more you will be able to gain control of your thoughts, gain control of your life. So the guy got it. So whatever you got, if you have depression, always think about, well, maybe there's an unconscious reason for this depression, that it's serving some purpose that I think is to my advantage. Think about that, and then you may discover there's a greater truth, and with that greater truth, there's a greater solution that may not involve chemicals, and drugs, etc.